So, Sonic Superstars is coming out in like 2 days, and something you may not know about me is that I really fucking like Sonic. And not just any Sonic, but the original gameplay style of 2D platforming has always been my preferred playstyle for the Blue Hedgehog. So, count myself lucky that Sega is actually making a brand new game with brand new zones, special stages, multiple playable characters, etc. But I thought that before I really cut my teeth on Sonic Superstars, I would go through every mainline 2D Sonic game released on consoles to, I don't know, have some fun. And like, there's deceptively a lot to talk about with all of these games, and I don't want to go through everything, but I do want to go over stuff that I find interesting. Starting with Sonic 1, the Progenitor. Probably the most infamous thing about this game is just how many times it's been re-released, but that original Genesis version is iconic. That does beg the question, with so many versions of the same game, which one should you play? Well, since it's gotten a price cut and is one of the only official ways to play this game, I recommend Sonic Origins. It's got full widescreen support, so you can't really complain about not being able to react. There's also some other features that we'll get into later that make this version my de facto whenever I'm in the mood to play this game on console. Of course, there's also unofficial ways to play the game, which involve the mobile port of this game. Don't be deceived at the concept. These ports were done by people who love and care about this franchise. In fact, the version in Origins is based around the mobile port. And if you ever wanted to play this game with lives and widescreen, you could decompile the game to play on PC. You could, but should you? Yes. I would say technically this is the best version of the game, but it can be a little weird to get running, and I think it's really hard if you have an iOS device. If accessibility is the root of the issue, I can fully recommend Sonic Origins. The experience I've had with the game is a generally positive one, even if the image isn't as clear as the decompilation. And the game in general, you know, I think is really good. Not great, by any means. Of all the classic titles, it's probably the most or second most flawed depending on who you ask, but definitely good. For reference, when I was first playing these games, I got into them due to the mobile ports back in, I want to say 2013, and I've only experienced both Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 this way. Sonic 3 is a different story that I'll definitely talk about it when we get there, but I would not say I grew up with these games, not in the slightest. I was a 2000s baby. My first Sonic game was Unleashed, believe it or not. So believe me when I say it was pretty much love at first sight. The sense of speed and control, the level design that only got better the more you played it. Ooh, how it touched a young Sky so. But I'll be completely honest, that was mostly Sonic 2. Sonic 1 is, I would wager, not super fun to go through. Not because of how Sonic controls, though. Every action is smooth and feels good to do. Granted, most of what you're doing is jumping and rolling, but goddamn if both those things aren't satisfying as fuck to do. And the looks definitely complement the feeling. This sprite work is something else, man. Sonic's actual sprite is something I don't really like all that much, but that's just personal preference. And the music is iconic, if a bit repetitive. Yeah, all of the 6 main stages in this game repeat the same track for all of their 3 acts, which can really get graining after a while. Maybe I'm just spoiled because I replay 3 and King of Mania way more than the other 2D Sonics, and man, I wanna like the other stuff that isn't the main gameplay in this game, but I really just can't. Case in point, the special stages. So, a bit of context. The plot of this game is Dr. Robotnik, or Eggman, whatever you want to call him, found out that South Island, the game's setting, is host to the 6 Chaos Emeralds. So, in order to get the true ending, you have to collect 50 rings in a stage and then enter the giant ring. And after you get there, I just can never have a good time. The goal is to find the emerald in the maze and get rid of the little casing things to collect it and stow it away from Robotnik, but they just control so... I don't like it. Whenever I play this game, I never go for the true ending, because these are just not fun to navigate. And if I'm not having fun, I don't want to do something. I have to say this out loud because I can hear the cries of get good at my doorstep already. Allow people to play games the way they want, even if it's not the way you want. But this is a game, and a game with quite the laundry list of levels. I thought it'd be fun to go through them in order, so let's do that. Green Hill Zone is, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, the best zone in the game. Plenty of opportunities to go fast even if you don't know what you're doing, and platforming that doesn't take away from the go fast mentality. Not to mention the fact that it also had the best art direction in the game. The welcoming green fields and contrasting browns make Sonic stand out a lot. And he should, he is the outlier, and the last thing you want is for the player character to be invisible. Not only that, but each enemy is placed in a great spot where if you're reckless, you'll get hit, but if you know it's coming, then you'll have a better time. Green Hill is the reason I believe this franchise even got its footing in the marketplace. It's just that good of a level. It's a shame the rest of the game doesn't live up to that standard. Marble Zone is the first of a couple levels to introduce more bare-bones platforming to the franchise, and let me tell ya, it drags. Granted, after experiencing the highs of Green Hill, it's not that bad, but when that dopamine wears off halfway through the second act, I just fucking crash. There are ways to speed it up, but those are really just speedrunning tricks that take a lot of timing to pull off properly. It's here where the game kind of divides into two sections. Areas where you're supposed to go fast, and areas where you aren't. And just due to how time works, you're spending far more of your time platforming slowly on spiked chandeliers than you are running through fun and challenging obstacles. At least there are fun secrets to find, but that's also true of every other level. Springyard Zone is a step in the right direction, with tricky platforming this time at an angle and a lot of multiple pathways. But I only have one small problem. These blocks. These goddamn blocks kill the pacing of this level so fucking much, and to my knowledge they aren't avoidable, so you have to go through at least one of them, and thanks to Origin's weird collision detection, it's very easy to die here. Very fucking easy. I dread these every time I replay this stage. And speaking of dread, Labyrinth Zone. One of the few zones people remember by name because of how infamous it is. This is the game's water level, but that's not the fact that bugs people. No, the fact that bugs people is that Sonic cannot swim, so instead he sinks to the bottom wherever you are without fail, just at a slower pace than usual. Speaking of, all of your movements are slower in water, but enemies behave the same no matter what, meaning you have to react far quicker than you would if you were out of the water. Sonic's speed also takes a nosedive, but that's not the real reason people are upset at the underwater parts of Sonic games. No. The real kicker is that as soon as you enter the water, you're on a timer. And when that time runs out, you die. You can extend this timer by getting these air bubbles since it's based around Sonic's inability to breathe underwater. Hedgehogs aren't fish, who knew? But getting them to spawn can be a point of RNG, to the point where I died multiple times simply because I waited for a bubble that didn't show up. Combine that with no alternative routes to avoid the water, as well as shitty enemy placement and funky obstacles, you've got yourself a recipe for the worst zone in the game. Oh, and unrelated, but I thought you would have to attack the boss of this zone before he reaches the top, but turns out you can just let him run free? Weird choice, but okay. Thankfully, I'm a much bigger fan of Starlight Zone. In my eyes, this is just a better version of Springyard Zone, with the pace being entirely controlled by the player. If you want to go fast, it's up to you. And that is where I think Sonic level design fully shines. Scrap Brain Zone has a kind of similar vibe to it. In fact, maybe a little too familiar. If these two zones didn't have different backgrounds, the similar foreground textures would have fooled me into thinking they were one long level. Until we get to Act 3 of Scrap Brain, which is just another act of Labyrinth. Yay. It does fit into the grander environmental storytelling with the game, like, slowly but surely the wildlife in the levels gets taken over by a mechanical aesthetic, and Scrap Brain is technically the final level on the game, so we're infiltrating Eggman's base, and it would make sense that he would build it above some ancient ruins, something that'll become a bit of a trend with his character, but man, it's still not fun to play. It's got the same problems as Labyrinth Zone, but it's also much harder with more enemies and more frequent obstacles. At least it's only an act long, but it's definitely the one level that took me the longest to beat upon my original playthrough for this video. Then it's Final Zone time, and this is the first of a couple zones throughout the series that is solely here for the boss. Which, hey, while we're here, the bosses in this game are okay. Since Sonic Offensive moveset is really only his jump where he curls into a ball, it can make the actual act of fighting a little tedious. So the game decides to vary up the actual design of the boss to mixed effect. And they're all really easy. There's a reason the compilation of every boss in this game is only 7 minutes long. The best one is easily the Starlight Zone boss, since I don't just have to turn my brain off and win, like I have to actually aim at these little pellets. The final boss is kinda good, but it just takes a while to beat. And the pattern doesn't change. The actual way you fight him never changes. He just appears in one of these random tubes and you have to hope that you're within the vicinity to hit him. Doesn't take forever, but it does take a tad bit too long. After that, the game's over. Go home. Unless you got all 6 Chaos Emeralds, in which case the actual ending sequence is still the same. Only thing that changes is Eggman's sprite at the end. I would say it's hardly worth going for them unless you're doing like retro achievements or something like that. So that was Sonic the Hedgehog. Is it worth your time? I would harbor a pretty flimsy no. Because it's not like there's no merit to the game. Some levels are fun to play. It's just bogged down by the levels that aren't fun. And in terms of a fun to not fun ratio, I'd call it a solid 6-4. If you're going to play it, the best way to play is with cheats on the headcanon version, because you can import the elemental shields from Sonic 3. These make the drags that are Marble and Labyrinth Zone a lot more tolerable just due to opening up your options. But if you're looking for a pure, uncut Sonic 1 experience, well, again, I have to point to the headcanon version. Something I haven't mentioned yet is that Sonic's moveset in Origins isn't all that it once was. 2 new moves have been added. The Spin Dash, first introduced in Sonic 2, and the Drop Dash, first introduced in Sonic Mania. And even playing the game in Classic mode doesn't get rid of the Spin Dash. So if you want to play this game in widescreen without emulating and not have a Spin Dash, well, the only really good way is the headcanon release. But if you don't have a PC, or if you just don't want to have to deal with setting up something like a decompilation, or if you just don't like the idea of playing a classic Sonic game on your phone, by all means, get Origins. But you should know you're leaving some options off the table by not going for the headcanon release. Anyway, that was a look at Sonic the Hedgehog. Next time, we'll be looking at Sonic the Hedgehog 2. See you guys then. Bye!